Schedule and standards are key. Those are the two things, especially if you're going to produce and build. You have to have schedule and standards. All right, welcome to the How to Sell Insurance podcast. With me, as always, is the legendary Mr. Ryan Federico out of California. And as always, the man, the myth, the legend himself, Grant Lieber from good old Arizona. And you never know what time zone he's in because it always changes. It's so confusing. I don't
They
know how
either
you do it.
can't make up their mind or if they permanently made up their mind. It's whichever way you look at it. It's one of the two.
One of the two, and we'll honestly never know. But excited for a great episode today. One of my favorite topics, and actually it's probably everyone's favorite topic that is getting into the industry for the first time. It's honestly one of the things that most people look for when they're getting into this job. When they're job hunting on Indeed, Career Builder, ZipRecruiter, or whatever other platform, this is typically one of the number one things, the number one buzzword that people are looking for, which is a work-life balance. What does a work-life balance look like for you? How can I get that balance I want of making X amount of dollars that I want in my account while only putting in X amount of hours? Excited to get in this topic of what that looks like. Probably not only as just a producer like most of you are. Not only that, but also as a builder. Probably as someone who's doing both. What does that balance look like, especially in the beginning of producing and building at the same time, having the income you need, and balancing everything else in life? But first, I really want to kick it off to Grant here. I think someone who's a super top producer and has been for a long time at our company. In the beginning, being a new agent, if you can think all the way back then, and I think out of the three of us, you've done this the longest.
Old man.
What did that balance look like in the beginning, if there was one?
Fair question. Yes, I'm getting old. Nine years in this, 1 foot in the grave, as my mother would say. Ashton, I think that, like, if I really go back to the very beginning of it, the balance was just trying to figure out how to be profitable. And the balance was figuring out, how do I go into a work from home position where I am in control of my own hours, my own schedule. And I had to figure out, what that discipline looked like schedule wise, because there were so many different distractions everywhere. And especially, coming into this thing as a college student, I was used to not getting a lot of work done, but having a lot of fun. And, one of our core values is that, we have fun and we get stuff done. And I was really good at the having fun part, but getting stuff done, not so much. And so the initial part of my journey was really figuring out, how do I, number one, just eliminate distractions that take me away from being able to do the day-to-day activity, given that I was working remotely from home. And so I just go back to those beginning days and just thinking about how I really needed to hold myself to a certain standard that I wasn't used to holding myself before, in order to kind of earn the right to be able to have the fun, So it was like, I had to figure out, listen, these are the blocks of times when I'm going to dial. Back then, when we met with people face to face, it was Friday nights from like 3 to 7, Saturday morning, 9 to 1. Take kind of Saturday night, Sunday off, Monday, Tuesday, all day out in the field, and then kind of rinse and repeat. So early on, it was really just about eliminating distractions. And then I know we'll talk about how that's progressed, but it was really just treating it like a business and kind of being my own worst boss and best employee.
What about you, Ron?
Man, I agree with that wholeheartedly, what Grant's saying. I mean, I was taught, early on in, my pursuit of work-life balance, that whatever you want, you need to sacrifice in order to get there. So it's like, if I want more time with my family, I need to sacrifice some time with my family now so that I can do enough work to put myself in a position where I get that time back, right? If I want more money, I need to spend a little bit more money in my business and market myself, sacrifice a little bit more money now to make the stakes higher so I can get more money back. And so I think when I was first getting started, you don't get work-life balance unless you start out of balance usually. Have I seen some people periodically come in to this industry and like be able to just from week one spend a little time with their family and work a little bit and spend a little bit of time doing their hobbies and whatnot. And yeah, but I mean, those are people that I think need less income or want to be more of a part-time kind of side hustle type of worker, and they eventually get really good at this. But I think in order to achieve the work-life balance, I needed to get out of balance, and I needed to just pack my schedule full of experience and get myself to a place where I could get more efficient because I was better. Then all of a sudden I have a book of business. Now I can work that book of business. Now I can get referrals. Now I'm more efficient. What used to take me 10 hours takes me 5. What used to be 30 hours of production is 15 hours of production. And then I can start building my team. and filling in the rest of that time with growing passive income, which really gave me the full work-life balance, that I have today. So I think it was getting out of balance first, and that's how I got into a work-life balance that I was looking for.
Yeah, when you're new, that's one of the biggest keys. You have to realize in order to get good at something you've never done before, it's going to take a lot. If you want to get good at that in a short time frame, do you want a work-life balance in the beginning with lower results? And there's nothing wrong with that. But if I'm going to have this great work-life balance, work when I want, do what I want, personal life when I want, well, my income might be down here. I might be making one to 3 grand, maybe 1 to 4 grand a month net because I'm spending more time not doing the things of work activities. And I'm only working 30 to 40 hours a week versus flipping that to go, hey, I know I've never done this before. I've never done sales, or I've never done this type of sale before. I'm going to put in 60, 70, 80 hours this week and see my income go to here and make 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, maybe more in my first few months so I can master the things I'm not good at. So that way, once I get normal, then I can start making that transition of now I can put in fewer hours to actually still get that same result.
I think it's really important what you're saying, though, and I know we want to move on to our next point here, but if somebody were to have approached me, let's say 15 years ago, somebody were to have approached me in the past, and if you're listening to this, ask this of yourself, and they would say, hey, you're going to work probably 50 or 60 hours a week, but you're going to make $500,000 in a year. Would you be like, sounds good? Like I remember back when I was pushing to get to 100K a year, pushing to get to 200K a year, all the examples I had of people that were making 500, 600K a year, like, yeah, they were working 50 or 60 hours a week. They were in before everybody. They left after everybody. They worked really hard and they built things and they grew, and they were always kind of thinking about ways to expand. And like, they got paid in relation to the problems that they solved and the amount of work that they did. And I always kind of admired that. But if somebody came in and they told you like, hey, you're going to have $500,000 a year working 30 or 40 hours a week in 5 years from now, but you have to work, 70 hours a week for 3 years to get there, would you do it? Does your timeline include that? Like, would it be worth it for you to put in the time now, knowing that like you're working towards something bigger and better, a brighter future? And I think that's what a lot of times people miss is like they come into our industry and they get comfortable doing 70 or 80K when 500, 600, 700 is on the table. And they don't really ask themselves, like, if I was working for a corporation and I walked in the front door of the corporation and the boss was like, hey, we're going to hire you and here's the track that we're going to put you on. We're going to start you off on, 70K to prove yourself. And after you hit these targets, we're going to move you up to 150. And in year 2, we're going to move you up to 250. And by year 5, we have you on this management track and you're making 500K a year. And when you're a manager, you're probably going to be working like 50 or 60 hours a week. How hard would you sell out for that job day one, making 75K, knowing that you were going to be making 500K on this management track if you perform? You would bust your ass. You would stay late. You'd be there early. You'd be kissing babies and like answering emails and cleaning the coffee pots. You would be proving that you were the right person for that role. Yet for some reason, when we get into business for ourselves with a proven model that tons of people have done that in, we're just like chilling. It's at 90K working 20 hours a week. Like it's no big deal. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And what would you guys say are maybe some of those first steps? Being brand new, if I want to get to that place to where I do have a work-life balance, what would you say are some of those steps you need to take in the beginning in order to get there down the road?
First of all, I don't recall who told me this, but they didn't say, strive for work-life balance because there's really no such thing as balancing that, but strive for work-life harmony. Figuring out a way where it can really go hand in hand. And that really stuck with me because I've kind of thought, especially early on, you really have to get out of balance to be in balance. And Ryan, to your point, like, if you want more time with your family, that is probably going to be the time that you have to sacrifice because you need to learn how to hone your skill set and develop your business to the point where you are going to be paid enough that you can actually enjoy the fruits of your labor. And like, I think probably one of the easiest ways to think about it is when you first start, in our industry or really in any commission-based sales for that matter, you're generally going to be putting in more effort and more hours than what you're getting paid. So like a lot of people, that's why a lot of people quit early on is because, they get started and they see this several $100,000 a year income that's possible. And they go, well, why isn't that happening for me? And they don't realize that there's a process you have to go through where early on I'm putting in more hours than I get paid. Then I get to the point where it's like, okay, I've kind of got through that learning curve. I'm getting paid proportionally to the effort I put in. And then you get to the point where where you're actually earning a much more substantial income than the effort that you're putting in. And I think, for all of us, we're at that phase now where we probably all agree that we're kind of compensated a great deal more than the actual amount of hours that we do put in. And so I think that people really fall off in the middle of that process and they don't see it all the way through and they don't get to experience that work-life harmony, right? So some of the early tips I would have is, number one, develop that mindset to realize that you have to make a long-term commitment to it. It's not going to be something where, in 1 week you can now just go on vacation and write business from vacation. Like, it took me a long time to develop the skill set to be able to write applications from the jacuzzi. Like, I had to learn how to be able to quickly underwrite. I had to learn how to connect with people very quickly. I had to know how to just write an app on my phone in general, right? So it wasn't an overnight thing to be able to have that type of lifestyle that I do have now, but it is very attainable for everybody in not that long of a period of time. So it would start with kind of the mindset of it. Like, hey, I went to college. I spent 3.5 years in college. I graduated. I had $100,000 that it cost me to do that. And I have people that come in, they bought $200 worth of leads. They've been there for 2 weeks and they're wondering why it doesn't work for them yet. Like, guys, give this a little bit of time. Okay. And then from there, it really comes down to schedule. You have to have everything on the calendar. And somebody told me once, you have to choose who you're going to disappoint. Do I disappoint my family to work on my business? Do I disappoint my business and my clients to spend time with my friends? So that's kind of the harmony you have to find out, is like, at what point, when is it appropriate to do what things? You might be in a season where you really feel like you need a vacation, but the reality is you just need to take 5 hours off. You don't need to take 5 days off. You could also be in a season where maybe you've been grinding really hard and maybe you're not really where you want to be yet, but you do need to take those couple of days off to get yourself right. So I think it's just about understanding what you want out of this, what season you're in, and then knowing the work you have to put in until you don't have to work as hard.
And that's the thing. You have to figure out how fast do you want the results. And if you give yourself that season in the beginning, if you're brand new, of, hey, I'm just going to go as hard as I can for these next, I typically recommend 60 to 90 days. That's typically where it takes. And most people, it's really 90 days. If you give it everything you have for the next 90 days, you're going to be in that place to where you will have a work-life balance. I had a brand new agent, their first month, they didn't write anything. Their second month, they made 4 sales. Then their third month, they went out and did 14 grand. Then now their fourth month, they're on pace to go do 22 grand. Well, they worked as hard as humanly possible, putting in about 40 to 60 hours every single week to go get those results. Now, not everyone gets those results that slow. Some do, some don't. Some get those results a lot quicker. Like, they don't go their whole first month and not make a sale. Many people typically make their first sale in their first week or two. This agent, a little bit slower, and that's okay. But the thing is they understood, I have a longer learning curve. The more I put in, the more time, the more activity, the more effort, the quicker I'll get through it. Now, there's still a decent amount of time, but they put in the time to be able to get good. Everyone's different. Some people, it takes 2 weeks and you're rocking it and blowing sales out of the water. Other people, it takes 2 months. In this example, that's the exact time it took. It took 2 months to be able to start knocking it out of the park when it came to sales. So give it the time you need. And like Grant said, is you have to figure out, like, who are you going to disappoint? Who are you going to steal from? Are you going to steal from your business, or are you going to steal from your family? Are you going to steal from your business and not give it the time it needs, and it eventually fails and collapses because you're not giving it the time you need, the practice you need, the after hours work you need, the self-development you need? Or are you going to take it from your family? You have to figure out where that's going to come from. We're not talking about working like that for the next 2 to 3 years. Like Grant said, seasons. Take that time, whether it's a month, 2, 3. I always recommend 3 at least in the beginning in order to be able to get to that work life.
I think, man, like, one of the things that's important, so if you want like a hack to work-life balance, I think the first thing is decide what work-life balance means to you. People have different opinions of what work-life balance is. Some people on my team who think that work-life balance is they work 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, and they take the weekend off. They think that's work-life balance. There's some people on my team who go, you know what, I'm going to work for 10 days straight, and then I'm going to take 5 days off. You know what I mean? Or something like that. And there's a couple in our organization who every 6 weeks they take a vacation, and while they're on vacation, they plan their next vacation 6 weeks away or 8 weeks away while they're on vacation. And then when they come back, they have something to push for 6 weeks. And so they go hard for 6 weeks, and then that's their work-life balance. And they travel and they go somewhere for a week or a week and a half or whatever it is. And so, like, my work-life balance today is a little bit of everything each day, a little bit of family time, a little bit of personal time, a little bit of work time, a little bit of personal development. I want a little bit each day. So I kind of work a little bit 7 days a week. I'm going to spend time with my family 7 days a week. I'm going to spend personal time 7 days a week. And I do hobbies 7 days a week. I fit a little bit in each day. That's what the definition of work-life balance is for me. I think what most people want is just control and freedom over that. And once you've decided what your work-life balance looks like for you, one of the things I love about our business is that it's hard. And the reason why I love that our business is hard is because it means that most people quit. And that's a great thing if you're somebody who doesn't quit, because when you make it through the learning curve of our business, there's way more people that are looking for insurance right now than capable insurance agents to sell them insurance. There's a lot of people with insurance licenses that are at some form of quitting or sucking, that aren't committed to like getting better and getting through the learning curve, right? So if you make it through the learning curve, if you bust your ass and you make it through the learning curve, it's shooting fish in a barrel. Like it's such an amazing industry because there's way less of us, right, than people looking for insurance. And so I love that our business is hard because it means a lot of people are going to quit along the way. So what does your work-life balance look like? What does that ideal thing look like for you? And can you paint a picture of your life that is inspiring enough for you to push through the adversity and to keep going at it and to work longer nights and to work longer days and to make more calls and to buy more leads and to push through some frustration and to scream into the pillow every now and then because you're frustrated? Like, okay, is the vision of what your life could be big enough to withstand the disappointment that you're going to go through in the learning curve? I was fortunate enough when I got here, Ashton, that like I had work-life balance immediately because I was coming from a place where I was working 80 hours a week, you know what I mean? And I was making a decent amount of money, but I was working 80 hours a week, driving all over the place, traveling everywhere. And like, I immediately came into this industry and was like, oh man, I'm only in the field 2 days a week. And the rest of the days I'm here at my house and I have dinner with my family. And like, we get to do pizza movie night on Friday after my dials. And like, I had way more work-life balance when I came in here. But remember, that's because I learned sales for like 15 years before getting in here. So I put in my time in learning sales and getting through the adversity and all the objections and how to work with clients and stuff like that. Because it wasn't like that when I started in the beginning. I was getting my butt kicked. And so it's like, you got to put in your time somewhere. Like Grant gave that example of college. Like you went to college for 4 years, paid $100,000 and went to class. People forget that sometimes. Like you actually have to go to class and like pass quizzes and stuff in college, pass tests and like and graduate college, not just pay $100,000, $100,000 and studying. You know, look where he's at now. Like some of you like didn't go to any college. This is your college. Like your college is, can you work? And can you hustle? And can you pass the tests and the exams? And can you make it through your first couple of years till you have your degree in being a professional insurance salesperson? Look at it that way and you'll be fine.
Absolutely. And speaking of that, what does that work-life balance look like once you start building? What is that going to look like when you're producing and building at the same time?
Yeah, I think we kind of talk about like football analogy, I guess, like, you know, the different sides of the ball. Like I think in our business, there's 3 sides of the ball. I think that there is our personal production. I think that there is our building. And I believe that there is mentoring, coaching. And I think those are 3 different segments. And so, you know, you're spending time, if you're, you know, still out in the field yourself, you know, you're making sure you're getting clients, whether that's, you know, personal appointment setting, if you have an appointment setter, you're doing texting to book, etc. And then meeting with people. When you're building, you know, that's doing interviews and follow-up conversations. And then you're mentoring your existing agent pool and then also leading leaders if you've developed leadership within your team to help them. And so when you have those 3 different things, it's very easy, I think, early on to get overwhelmed. And one of the biggest pitfalls that I think I have seen people, especially as they start building a team, they forget about today's money and they work too much on tomorrow's money. And then they have no money either. And what I mean by that is I think that a lot of people forget that you need to keep the stability of you personally producing as you start to develop your agency, because you got to continue to pay the bills, keep the lights on, keep your recruiting going, keep your leads coming in, but you still need to be working on, you know, building that pipeline for the future. And so I see too many people kind of name their puppies and they get too excited about all these people coming in. They've invested time into them, and I'm almost trying to like raise the dead instead of just giving birth birth to new people. And that's been a common pitfall. But I think the overall balance that's required when you are developing a team is just the structure of when am I going to be producing, and does my team know those are the hours that I'm producing? And I can make my production time also a coaching and mentoring. I can be on Zoom. We have a lot of people that use our virtual office to actually run appointments and let their team listen into them. So you can be double dipping on those times. And then when I'm building, like if I'm doing a group interview, that's a time that I have blocked off on my calendar. I'm not producing. If a client calls me and says, hey, I'm dying to write a $5,000 APD policy, I'm going to say, that's awesome. I'll call you in 20 minutes when I'm off this call. Like you just have to commit to what times you're going to do what, and then let yourself off the hook for everything else that comes in. There's going to be so many things that come in. There's going to be times when you're supposed to be producing, but you have some really important coaching call that you need to take. And sometimes you have to decide, is it worth me sacrificing the time I allocated for production to do that? And other times you're going to have to say, listen, this is my time to produce. I'll get back with you later tonight or tomorrow. And what I think most often happens is that we make up in our head that things are a big emergency, and they really are not. There's so many agents that have reached out to me saying, hey, listen, I'm about to meet with this client. I don't know what to do, and blah, blah, blah. The world's on fire. And maybe I don't end up getting back to them right away. And I call them back a couple hours later and I go, hey, did you figure it out? And they go, oh yeah, no problem. Yeah, I didn't really need your help anyway. And I think this happens so often, is that like we build up in our heads that like everything is just, this constant fire to put out. And it's like, listen, we're in this thing for the long haul. We want to be there to determine if something is a high urgency and high importance. Am I focused there? But there's things that are high importance, but low urgency. I can schedule those things out. And then there's things that are low urgency and low importance that I need to put off or not do at all. And I think that's the main challenge that comes with kind of juggling these things. People just allow themselves to get overwhelmed when they really just, you're never going to get to all of it.
Schedule and standards are key. Those are the two things, especially if you're going to produce and build. You have to have schedule and standards. Like you said, you have to block in, hey, this is my working time with clients. And when I say with clients, that's even prospecting, whether you're dialing, networking groups, like whatever you're doing to find clients. Like this is my working time with clients, and then this is my agency time. And then the other thing, schedule, standards, and systems. You have to have systems. And I'm going to go to standards last, but you have to go to systems. If they can't reach you, what do? If I need an underwriting question, where do I go? Do they understand, here's a system of how to underwrite. Here's a tool to underwrite. Or here's a group chat. Hey, you did do the system. You went through the underwriting guide, the application. You went to call the carrier, or they probably didn't if they still have questions, but you did the system. You plugged it in the virtual thing, or you plugged it in the agent guide and you hit search and you try to find it and you're still confused. Well, it's like, is there maybe a group chat? Hey guys, hey team, I really have a question. My upline's busy right now. Like I waited 5 minutes, 10 minutes. He wasn't able to get back, probably in an appointment, probably writing 80,000 AP or something. But like, hey, I need some help. Can I get some help? Like, is there a system that people can utilize in order to still get the answer? Like, what's that system? If you don't have a training system, they'll drown, whether it's just basic training or I need help because I don't understand something.
It's not only that they'll drown, it's that you won't get work-life balance. If you can't train to a system, if you can't point people to resources that they can go find the answer for themselves, if you can't teach people how to fish, they're always going to be dependent on you to make money.
Exactly.
And so it's like, and you don't get work-life balance that way. Sorry, man, go for it. I think you're on a roll.
And that's a huge key too. Like now, not only even the balance part, which I know it's the title of this one, take that away. Now they're dependent on you in order to make an income. They can't perform their job unless you're available. So now you have a team of people that can't work unless you're available. And now everyone's hurting. Their sales are hurting. Your sales are hurting. Everything is being brought down. What type of expectation do you set with your people? One thing I love, Ryan, you've said it for a very, very long time, probably one of the first people I heard to say it, but we just got back from a leadership training event where someone said, hey, for every 1 minute I ask of my mentor his time, every 1 minute that I'm looking for my mentor's time, I need to have spent at least 10 minutes finding the solution, no matter what it is. So it's like, whether it's your mentor, your upline, your manager, whatever you want to call that person, I need to have spent 10 minutes myself. Otherwise, I shouldn't be reaching out. So if I want an hour of my upline's time, I better put in 600 minutes of work trying to solve this problem. If I'm going to give someone a call and go, hey, I need help with XYZ, and I'm looking for a 15-minute phone call right now, did I put in an hour and a half of work? And like Grant said, a lot of times, and one of the best things you can do, a good standard set for yourself, someone asks for help, don't reply for 10 to 15 minutes. 9 times out of 10, they find the answer. I can't even tell you just how many times I was in an appointment. I couldn't see it in the middle of something, couldn't multitask, didn't see it pop up on my screen while I was working. And then I text them back and it was like 15 minutes later, 10 minutes later. I was like, hey, man, I just finished up something. I can hop on the phone right now and help you. Is now good? Oh, actually, I figured it out, man. Like after I texted you, it took like 5 minutes. And that's it. It's just a lot of people like the lazy shortcut. I've had agents tell me that before. I got on the phone. Hey, man, where did you look so far for the answer? Well, I did I know you're going to know it. Just tell me real quick. It'd be so much easier. Just tell me real quick. And I tell them every time, like, hey, I could. You're right. Like, I know it right now. I could tell you right now. I could give you the answer without a doubt. However, if I give you a fish and feed you, it's not as effective if I teach you how to fish. Because now, if you know how to do it, you're not going to need me. You're not going to be dependent on me to have the answer. I have now taught you how can you find solutions to the problems you have, which is far more valuable than teaching you I am the solution to every problem you have.
Yeah, man, I love that. And I think like if we're going back to the, how do you find work-life balance in building? I want to remind everybody, at least from my viewpoint, you're playing a bigger game. Like when you're a producer and you're coming in, you're just a salesperson, we kind of know what the limits for a personal producer are. Like, of course, you have the anomalies of like a Dylan Crane who's going to do $1 million in personal production, right? Like probably the first person in our company's history to do that. One of the very few in the insurance industry I've ever heard of to do that on a personal pen in 1 year, right? Really powerful stuff. We've got plenty of people making 400, 500, 600,000, right? And I think the average personal producer is probably going to be in that 100 to 250 range is where you're going to have a career producer that's comfortable making in that 6-figure or multiple 6-figure range on their own personal production and enjoying their life, right? So that's the game you're playing. That's sort of like the end result prize of the game that you're playing. Well, building agencies and scaling distribution, scaling a business, we're talking a millions of dollars game, with many, 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 many people throughout many different companies in every corner of our industry making millions of dollars, right? We're talking about a much larger game. We're not talking about, one person in like kind of the folklore of insurance, made $1 million on their personal pen, selling life insurance. So when you're scaling a team, you're scaling distribution, it's like, okay, well, if the prizes are bigger, the buy-in is probably larger. The work-life balance is going to have to be unbalanced for longer. I'm going to need to grow more myself. It's going to feel like a fight because most likely I can't just I have to also produce while I'm doing it. I think if you recognize that you're playing a bigger game now, we have a baseball game for my son's little league team here in just a little bit. And, they're having fun. Whether win or lose, they're going to get, oranges and Lunchables and, Capri Suns and Gatorades after the game. And they're just going to have a fun time. It's going to be all good. Well, then you have the minor leagues and then you have, like college, obviously, then you have the minor leagues, then you have the major leagues, right? Like all three of those require a different preparation. When you're in the major leagues and you're getting hundreds of millions of dollars of contract, well, there's a lot more sacrifice that goes into that. Sacrifice of your family time, sacrifice of, having to work out more, your health, your physical regimen, your food, traveling all over the country, like all of the stuff that goes into being a professional athlete is a different game than you being, playing AA little league that you get your snacks after the game. So it's like recognize the size of the game that you're playing in and sacrifice accordingly, I guess is what I'm saying. Prepare to put in more time and effort to build an agency that's going to give you work-life balance forever rather than just learn a skill like, selling insurance that may give you work-life balance for a short period of time.
Hey, I don't think we could have put it any better, guys. Give it the time you need. Define a time frame. Everyone's different.
I guess I just wanted to maybe say, just as we're closing down, like why it's worth it and what life looks like after you do achieve it. Like, these insurance companies, go pay for us to go on these incentive trips if you had enough business with them. And, in the last 6 months, I've been on 3 of them. And I went to Puerto Rico, Dorado Beach, went to Whistler, Canada, and then went to Tamarindo, New Mexico. And, while I was in Puerto Rico at the Ritz-Carlton Reserve, this $2,000-3,000 per night suite that we're in, overlooking the ocean, I didn't even want to write business. I had clients that were reaching out to me that were just in the pipeline and we needed to get their policies done. I had people reach out to me. I wrote $12,000 in a 3-day stretch and I wasn't even trying to write the business. And I'm not saying that to brag about it. I'm just saying, like, if you build up a pipeline You'll have people come to you. If you are able to do enough business, you can go on these incredible trips. You can do some things that you go to places that you never really thought of. Like December, we're going to Iceland. I would have never thought to go to Iceland, an all expense paid trip. And so it's like, you do have to get out of balance early on, but you're going to get to the point where you're able to run this business entirely from your phone if you want to be able to run this business while you're traveling, vacationing, and having fun, and be able to do it with some really special people, assuming you join our company. I just wanted to say, I hope that everyone is willing to put in the effort it takes to overcome kind of that imbalance and that uncomfortability of this work-life balance to be able to get what's on the other side of it, which is a tremendous amount of income and a tremendous amount of freedom. And that's really what it is. It's about the lifestyle side of things. There's a lot of roles where you can work super, super hard and make a good income. And there's other roles where you don't have to work that hard and you can have a lot of freedom, but it is really challenging to have both of those. And so I just hope people commit the time, effort, and energy to be able to get through their own learning curve so that they do get compensated more than the effort they put in so they can enjoy the things they want to enjoy.
So cool. I'll not one up you, but agree with you on that and say that it's Sunday, I'm going to Disneyland. Tuesday, we're going to Universal Studios. Then the following Sunday, we fly to Maui for a week. Already have been on, a couple little vacations so far, in the, the month that we're in right now, the beginning of April. And my income's not going to change at all. I'm going to have more money in my bank account when I come back from Maui than I had in it when I left. And I'm not going to need to be at the helm every single day, pushing rope forward and selling people every day because I have a scalable system and I have work-life balance, which is amazing. But it took a lot of sacrifice to get to that place, so I love that. I love the rewards that we get from these trips that we get to go on. And man, I think, I hope you all get to experience it.
Absolutely. So put in the time that it takes. Have your seasons of imbalance for balance. So that way you can get to where you need to be and set that schedule, your standards, your systems in order to build a system that can grow and scale to whatever size you want, to whatever income you want. That is the number one key. As always, guys, this is the How to Sell Insurance podcast. Make sure to like, subscribe, share, follow us on all the different platforms, guys. And we look forward to seeing you guys on this next episode. See ya.